Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. We are now at episode 4, and today we're going to look at abortion. We're going to look at in a general way, what the rulings are around abortion. I think we need to talk about the lack of understanding of the emotional and spiritual impact abortion can have on women. The distinction between early and late miscarriages and abortion is that miscarriage is an event that happens to the mother. She doesn't have a hand in it, it's the will of Allah and it happens. Whereas by contrast, medical abortions are events that involve human agency. There is an underlying moral distinction between spontaneous pregnancy loss and medical induced abortion. Generally, when we think about medical induced abortion, I think mainly for Muslims anyway, we are thinking that during the process of antenatal care, through ultrasound scans, etc., we discover that the fetus has some abnormality. The dominant view was that abortion in such cases is murder, for which God will punish the murderer unless it's certain the mother will die. Now, I have heard that until the ruh, the soul, comes into the baby, into the fetus at 16 weeks, abortion is allowed, but I think that would have to be clarified by one of our scholars. A consequence of the dominant view that a medical termination of pregnancy is sinful and is when the abortion is carried out, it may need to be concealed from some family members. Now, what people have to understand is that when a woman needs to have an abortion for severe congenital abnormalities of an unborn child, she will be facing terrible amount of guilt and grief and sadness. And it's at these times that she needs the love and the support of her family. And with abortion, it's at these times that this love and support is quite often not there because of shame and because of guilt of this action and because of fear of being judged, having the communities view you as a bad person. Occasionally, women who choose to terminate an abnormal fetus will do it without the support of their husband or their in-laws, and they may go away to another town, to a hospital where nobody knows them, to reduce the risk of malicious gossip. Some people, usually from the older migrant generation, see it as Allah's will and that they should have the baby no matter what. And this, of course, is always an option for all of us faced with this thing. As a social worker, I've worked with children with disabilities. I've worked with families, with mothers in particular, that have brought up children with profound disability. And all I can say to you is the effect on the mother's lives. Quite often the marriages collapse under the stress. The effects on the other children, the other siblings, is quite profound. So I have seen this with my own eyes, and therefore there can be for me no judgment regarding a woman's decision whether she has a child with profound disabilities or she doesn't. Either way, it's a no-win situation. You know, nobody's going to win in this. It's something to be supported and to show your love and your commitment to that woman's decision. It's not an easy decision. There was another mother who had an ultrasound that showed multiple abnormalities to an early fetus, and she tried to find authoritative Islamic support to enable her to end this pregnancy, and she couldn't find any at that time. So she followed her mother's advice that it was God's will, and she had the baby. She had a traumatic surgical delivery of the baby, which was fatally malformed, and the baby died some days later. After the funeral, she found out that if there were reasonable grounds for abortion before the 120 days, before the Ruh, she could have actually had an abortion. Apparently there were fatwas issued in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia and Iran. So I think again this needs to be clarified for women who are having to make these traumatic decisions.